It is the start of the Wallonian swing as Belgium remains coronavirus free in the main. At present, it is Le Samyn des Dames, 94.9 kilometres for the third classic of the season. Weather conditions overcast here in Wallonia. And those are all of the races that have taken part so far. 2012, the first year, Adrie Visser, the first winner of this race. As we saw, 94.9 kilometres. Fascinating route, though, in Le Samyn, as they head down towards the circuit that takes them around Dour and across no less than 15 cobbled sections. One of the reasons that the Belgian press like to call this particular race a little Paris-Roubaix. And 2 laps of the 26.9 kilometre course towards the end, up towards the finish line, and it was Chantal Blaak who was the first across that finish line when they went through. The race at the moment sees Chantal Blaak with a huge advantage over the chasing pack, which has been whittled down from a group of 14 now down to around 5 riders, and 2 of them are teammates for her, so it's all looking very good for the Boels-Dolmans Express.
Yeah, Boels-Dolmans are definitely in a fantastic position here in this race. Jip van den Bos won this race last year in a similar vein to what Chantal is potentially on her way to doing today.
19.5 kilometres to go. This is the chase group of 5 riders, comprising at the moment Jip van den Bos, who was the winner. As we head back now to the peloton, this peloton has stabilised recently, managing to hold it at around 3 minutes and 10 seconds behind the chasing group. The chasing group, the last time check we had, about 1 minute and 40 seconds behind the leader at the moment, Chantal van den Broek-Blaak, and she is, well, the latest time check we've had on that is 2 minutes and 15 seconds. The images we were getting, Danny, as they swung round onto this cobbled section, were that it was looking quite relaxed. And you wanted to say something about just the difference in having a smaller group chasing over the bigger group that we had earlier. We head back here into the peloton. As you were saying, it has stabilised, but they're not really making any impression on the group of Jip van den Bos, Christine Majerus, Aude Bieniek and Ellen van den Dijk. So it's Majerus who leads them out onto the cobbled section, and Van Dijk is dropping to the back, and Bieniek has managed to hold on there, but it is Majerus who's trying to pull away here, and I would say that things aren't looking very good at all for the Trek Segafredo rider, Van Dijk, although she does seem to be closing things back up. Lotte Kopecky, just this remarkable ride from her, moving across from the World Championship track in Berlin, coming back to the road. This is a superb showing at the moment, and she comes to the front with Majerus now dropping back and allowing Jip van den Bos to come through into second.
I think Ellen van Dijk's just laying off, trying to bide her time to then attack on the later part of this cobbled section, or potentially when they hit the road. Majerus is probably the one she doesn't want on her wheel. She looks to be the strongest out of these 5 at the moment, so it'll be interesting to see what happens when they enter the last kilometre of this race. The last chance really to launch an attack. Magnus said this was the perfect time to go for it if you didn't want to leave it to a sprint. And it looks like Aude Bieniek is just, increasing the tempo here to potentially nullify or neutralise any attacks that could be made.
Well, it would suit her down to the ground if they could all come through to the finish line together. That will be the way she's thinking, potentially why she's come to the front here to try and control things. You've got Van den Bos, who looks to me as though she's keen to make an attack, but here goes Van Dijk on the left-hand side. An immediate response coming from Majerus and Kopecky, and then Bieniek and Van den Bos slow to pick up on that, and Van Dijk managing to pull away at least from 2 of the riders temporarily. 2 kilometres to go from this point out.
And that's exactly what I thought would happen, but she had Majerus on her wheel, and that was a rider she didn't want. I think if Aude Bieniek had been on her wheel, she could have had the gap that she wanted there. You could see that Aude was just struggling. Jip van den Bos has stayed on her wheel. Lotte Kopecky has stayed behind Majerus, which is probably the perfect wheel for her, but it is a slight uphill sprint because So that could change things a lot. I think Lotte Kopecky ideally would want a flat sprint. Jip van den Bos knows this sprint, knows this finish well, and Margeroos has gone again. That is just the perfect move to make after Ellen's made that big attack. She's going to have sore legs. She has got a gap, so can she now stay away to get that second place?
Margeroos pulling away from Kopecky, who's managed to just about stay with her. Van Dijk battling back. Van den Bos stays on Van Dijk's wheel for now. Bieniek was distanced once again, but she's fought back gamely as well. So this battle for second, the fascinating one of the day. Remember, Chantal Blaak is up the road. She is going to win this edition of Le Samyn des Dames, but it's all in the mix for second place at the moment. And now Lotte Kopecky finds herself out in front, and lots of glances over the shoulder because she looks as though she doesn't really want to be in this position. Who will make the next attack?
She's riding perfectly here, sticking to one side of the road to make sure that riders can't come from each side of her. She only has to look over and marshal one shoulder, which she's doing now, and it looks like Ord Bieniek is slipping through that gap to try and make a move. None of these riders want to wait until the last few hundred metres.
Bieniek with the next attack immediately. Kopecky responds, Margeroos behind her, Van Dijk in turn behind her, and then you have last year's winner Jip van den Bos in fifth place at the moment, but now coming up towards the finish line, Chantal Blaak, 2 times a winner in Le Samyn des Dames in the past, 2015 and 2016, the last time that she got across the finish line out in first place. Last year had to play second fiddle to Jip van den Bos from her team, but it is going to be a 7th win for the Dutch in 9 in this event, and it has been a dominant performance from Boels Dolmans and a dominant performance from Chantal Blaak.
That was a super impressive performance for her. She obviously smiling now with delight that that massive effort is over. Margeroos is now leading this 5 towards the finish, and I think we're going to see fireworks in this last few hundred metres as Ord Bieniek tries again.
Margeroos hits the front. Van Dijk tries to stay on her shoulder. Jip van den Bos coming up on the inside. Boels Dolmans looking for a 1-2-3 here, remember. Heading up towards the finish line. Margeroos seems to have chimed in well. Margeroos is going to come through with, looks like, Kopecky coming into the 3rd place. And in the end, I think Van Dijk managed 4th. And last year's winner, Jip van den Bos, coming across the line. Confirmation of our standings from today's 9th edition of Le Samyn des Dames. Chantal van der Broek-Blaak, the winner of the race for the 3rd time, with Christine Margeroos, her teammate, coming home in 2nd place. It wasn't Abby May Parkinson who was in 3rd. A little bit of an error there on the graphics. It was Lotte Kopecky who came across the line in 3rd place. A really superb ride from her, with Jip van den Bos, who was last year's winner, given 4th place in the end, and Ellen van Dijk in 5th. Ord Bieniek, who was involved in that group of 5 that chased right the way down to the finish line, having to come across the line in 6th place after just being exhausted in the run into the line, and winning the sprint from the peloton. It was another rider from the Boels Dolmans cycling team in the shape of Lonneke Uneken, led out well by Caroline Canuel. So those are the results from the women's race, and Chantal Blaak, I'm sure, will be delighted to have yet another victory here in Dour.